You've probably heard the terms, right? Quantum healing, raise your vibration. They've got this scientific ring to them, but they also feel like something else entirely. So today, we're going to dive into this really confusing world and try to figure out what's really going on.
And that really gets to the heart of the whole thing, doesn't it? Is something like quantum healing real science? I mean, it's using the word quantum, that comes from quantum physics, one of the most rock-solid, tested parts of science we have. So, does it actually hold up? Or is there something else at play here? Okay, to really get a handle on this, we need to break it down into three different categories. You've got science, right? That's all about evidence and trying to understand how things work. Then you have religion, which is rooted in faith and the search for meaning. But then there's this third thing, pseudoscience. Its whole basis is imitation, and its goal, well, it's all about providing those nice, easy answers. And believe me, knowing the difference here is going to be crucial for the rest of our chat. All right, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to start with the mask pseudoscience puts on to look legit. Then we'll get into its tricky language and why it feels so appealing. After that, we'll see how it stacks up against the tough roads of real science and faith. And finally, we'll unpack that big promise of easy immortality. All right, let's dive into our first section, the mask of scientific legitimacy. This is all about how pseudoscience basically just borrows the look and feel of authority from science without actually doing any of the heavy lifting. So what exactly is this stuff we're calling energy pseudoscience? Well, think of it as this weird deceptive hybrid. It's not like religion, you know? Religion is totally upfront about being based on faith, on things you can't necessarily prove in a lab. But this stuff, it's different. It hijacks the language of science to make its claims sound super official, even when there's zero real evidence or scientific method to back them up. So what parts of the scientific playbook does it just ignore? Well, real science is built on a few absolutely essential pillars. There's falsifiability, the idea that a claim has to be testable, that you have to be able to prove it wrong. Then you've got peer review, where other experts kick the tires on your work. And of course, reproducibility. Can someone else do the same experiment and get the same results? Yeah, pseudoscience just kind of skips all of that. And here's the classic move. It steals a very specific set of words. Suddenly, you're hearing quantum thrown around to talk about consciousness, or biofield for life energy, or my favorite, shockers being called electromagnetic vortexes. These are real, complex terms just plucked from physics and biology and slapped onto concepts to create this illusion of scientific proof where there's absolutely none. Now you might think, okay, so what? It's just a mix-up of words, but it's not that simple. This linguistic deception, this word game, it causes real harm. And as we're about to see, it's a kind of a double whammy. Man, this Carl Sagan quote just hits the nail on the head. It really captures the psychological trap here. And what's so fascinating, and kind of sad, is that the people who fall for this often aren't scientifically clueless. Not at all. They often have some scientific knowledge. They recognize the fancy words, but maybe they don't have the deep critical thinking tools to spot how those words are being twisted. And let's be honest, realizing you've been fooled, that's a really tough pill to swallow. So here's that twofold harm I was talking about. First, it completely exploits public trust. It's like it's riding on the coattails of real science, cashing in on the credibility that took generations of actual scientists to build. But the second part is maybe even more dangerous. It actually erodes that trust. When someone eventually figures out that, say, energy healing has nothing to do with physics, that disappointment can sour into a general distrust of all science. And that's when you get skepticism about things that are critically important, like climate science or vaccines. So this all begs a pretty big question, right? If the science is so flimsy, why is this stuff so incredibly popular? Well, that brings us to our next section, escaping existential anxiety. We're about to get into the really deep, powerful psychological needs that this kind of pseudoscience promises to fix. So really, why does it work so well? It's definitely not just slick marketing. The appeal goes way deeper than that. It taps into some of our most basic human fears and our biggest desires. We're talking about those huge, uncomfortable questions about life that we all wrestle with. You know, the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre had a fantastic term for this: bad faith. It's basically a fancy way of saying we're deceiving ourselves. See, making a leap of faith is an honest spiritual choice. You're owning it. But someone in bad faith pretends it's not a choice at all. They say, oh, I have to believe this because science says so. What they're really doing is dodging the responsibility and the anxiety that comes with making a free choice. And then you've got Albert Camus and his idea of the absurd. He described it as this massive conflict between us humans, desperately looking for meaning and purpose, and a universe that's just silent. It's a tough pill to swallow, but pseudoscience, it offers a perfect, tidy little escape hatch. It takes something terrifying and final, like death, and reframes it. Suddenly, it's not a fundamental limit of life we have to face. It's just a technical glitch you can fix by, raising your frequency. Which brings us perfectly to our next section on science and faith. Because here's the fascinating thing. For all their differences, real science and real faith have one huge thing in common. They're both hard. They are demanding paths that require actual effort, which is the complete opposite of the easy shortcut that pseudoscience is selling. Just think about the difference for a second. Science demands intellectual humility. It demands you be okay with being wrong if the evidence points another way. That's tough. And on the other hand, genuine faith demands moral effort, that constant daily struggle to live up to your own values. Both of these paths, they require you to show up and do the work. And this whole idea of meaning through effort is captured so powerfully in this verse from the Quran Surah Al-Asr. It basically says that we're all in a state of loss unless we're people who actively believe, do good things, and push each other towards truth and patience. The takeaway is clear. Meaning isn't something you just get for free. It's something you earn through hard work, through struggle, and through sticking with it. And this all leads us to our final section. We're talking about the ultimate sales pitch, the illusion of easy immortality. This is the grand prize that pseudoscience dangles in front of us, all wrapped up in a nice, comforting package. So, let's just lay it all out, side by side. Pseudoscience offers the biggest reward you can imagine, immortality, basically, and all it asks in return is some magical thinking. Science, on the other hand, offers understanding, but its price is that you have to follow the evidence, even when it's not what you want to hear. And religion? It offers deep meaning, but it demands a real moral struggle and the deep commitment. And that's how you end up with these super simple, incredibly seductive taglines, right? Just raise your vibration, get transcendence without any sacrifice, immortality without conflict. It all sounds amazing because it's the exact opposite of the hard work we just talked about. It's the promise of a shortcut to the finish line, a shortcut that, well, just isn't there. And really, this might be the most important point of all. The real tragedy here isn't the desire to be more, to escape our limits. I mean, that's a beautiful, deeply human thing to want. The tragedy is the fundamental dishonesty about it. It's the refusal to just call a spiritual desire what it is, a leap of faith. Instead, it tries to hide that beautiful, scary leap behind this fake mask of scientific certainty. So, at the end of the day, that's the choice we all face, isn't it? It doesn't matter if your path leads you to a laboratory or to a place of worship, the fundamental question is the same. Are you going to choose a comforting illusion that asks for nothing, or are you going to embrace a difficult truth that demands everything you've got? The answer to that question, well, it doesn't just shape what you believe, it shapes who you are.